الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله. ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب ما كان حديثا يفترى ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل كل شيء وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. لتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان ارفعوا أصواتكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. The Holy Quran mentions many times to reflect on the past nations, to look at what happened to the previous generations. In fact, we can argue that maybe in the Quran it's full of stories of the past and what happened in the past, what happened to previous prophets, previous messengers, and the previous nations. However, the Holy Quran is not a book, it's not a history book. It's not just a book that writes down history. It's a guide for us, whereby reading those stories, we are able to extract lessons. By hearing about what happened to previous nations and what actions did they commit and what were the results of their actions, we can understand and extract knowledge from that. Not only from the Holy Quran, but also from the Ahl al-Bayt, from our Prophet. Because Rasulullah says, إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنِ. Rasulullah says, I am leaving with you two things, the Quran and the Ahl al-Bayt. From the Quran we get the theory. From the Quran you get the history, you get the lessons, you get the guidance. And the Ahl al-Bayt and Rasulullah, they were the embodiment, they were the practical. They were the ones who practiced that theory. And so we need both of them. Tonight, we enter a new season of commemoration and mourning. A season of sadness. A season of personal change, of internal reform. And we who are here today in this majlis of Abu Abdullah, and those who are all around the world going to be sitting in the majalis of Abu Abdullah and commemorating, we are the lucky ones because Allah has given us life to attend the majalis. How many people that we know, loved ones, family members, friends, they are no longer with us tonight and they can't attend the majalis. So you need to consider yourself lucky that God has blessed you, given you life to come and commemorate the majalis of Abu Abdullah. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam narrates when he was asked by one of his companions about these majalis, these gatherings, where they discuss religion and they remember Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He says, Inni uhibbuha. He says, I love these gatherings. Ihyu amrana rahamallahu man ahya amrana. Remember us, may Allah's mercy be on those who remember us. And then he says, فَإِنَّ مَنْ جَلَسَ مَجْلِسًا يُحْيِي فِيهِ أَمْرَنَا لَمْ يَمُتْ قَلْبَهُ يَوْمَ تَمُوتَ الْقُلُوبُ. He says that person who attends the majalis, the remembrance, our remembrance, his heart will not die on the day where all the hearts will die, on the day of judgment. Many people ask themselves, or they ask others regarding why do we mourn? And the people who ask are not necessarily those who are from different ideologies, from different schools of thoughts. We have people who are Shia, from the followers of Ahlul Bayt today, maybe due to their young age or their lack of understanding, the little knowledge that they've developed, they ask. We hear voices that get louder and louder every time Muharram is getting closer. And the voices turn into questions. And the questions will also come from those who do not follow the madhab of Ahlul Bayt. Questions come from those who follow the Sunni school of thought, from other ideas, other schools of thought. The question is, why are you sad? Why are you commemorating? Why are you mourning? It's something that happened so long ago. It's something that happened over 1300 years ago. Why the sadness? Why are you wearing black? Why are you crying? Why are you beating your chest? Why are you doing this? Why are tens of millions of people walking towards the shrine of Aba Abdullah? You know, recently I saw a clip where a young boy, and you can tell he's young from his voice, because he calls up someone who's a Shi'i person who has a broadcast, and he says to him, do you believe in the will of Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah has a will? He says, yes, we believe. He says, if you believe that Allah has a will, then Allah's will was that Hussein will be killed. So why are you sad, and why are you commemorating and mourning the death of Hussein? And he thinks he's smart. He thinks he has some sort of point to make. And what happens is they hear things and they want to repeat them without any understanding or knowledge. Another video that I saw was in London, in a place called Speaker's Corner. You have a person who is a Muslim or considers himself a Muslim mock the tragedy of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Mock the thirst of Aba Abdullah. Someone comes to him, gives him a bottle of water. He starts laughing. He says, no, I'm not thirsty. I'm not Hussein. And starts laughing and mocking Aba Abdullah Hussein. Making a mockery of the tragedy of Aba Abdullah and the thirst of Aba Abdullah. There was another who called live and was asked these two questions. He was asked, if you were in the time of Muawiyah and Ali ibn Abi Talib, who would you choose? He said to him, of course I will be with the one that Allah is happy with, that Allah is pleased with. I will be with Amir al-Mu'mineen Muawiyah. He said to him, then if you were in the time of Hussein and Yazid, who will you be with? He says to him, is this even a question you're asking me? Of course I'm going to be with the Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Khalifa of his time, Yazid ibn Muawiyah, and I'll fight against Hussein. And when you hear these things, you might get angry at first. You might feel like someone's mocking Aba Abdullah. Someone's mocking the thirst of Aba Abdullah. You might feel some anger, but then the anger quickly turns to sadness. And it's not sadness because of what they said. It's sadness because these people are so lost and misguided that they haven't reached, or the message of Aba Abdullah and that sacrifice and that tragedy hasn't reached them. So in terms of tonight, as an introduction, it is very important to understand why Ashura is important. Why is it every year that we remember and we commemorate and we attend these majalis, and the importance of attending these majalis? Because there's a lot of misguidance, there's a lot of ignorance, and that ignorance we're not shielded from it. Our youth and our youngsters are not shielded from these misguidance, from this ignorance, from this falsehood and this corruption. If you were to take a look at the history books, if you were to look at the Islamic history specifically, you'll find that the narrators or the historians focused on two main periods. The first period that they focused on was the pre-Islam era in Arabia and its surrounding, before Islam came. And then they focus on the life of the Prophet in Mecca and Medina. Yet you'll find that between the year 11 after Hijrah, which was the death of the Prophet, the death of Rasulullah, to the year 61 after Hijrah, which was when the tragedy of Karbala occurred. When Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was martyred, you'll find that this period in history, in Islamic history,
is either missing or we get very few events and historical facts about. Why is it that this 50 years in Islamic history is missing? What's the reason? And there are many reasons. And the first reason is because by exposing these 50 years,
beginning with Saqifa and ending with the tragedy of Abu Abdullah, and all the events that occurred in these 50 years, they will be exposing their leaders. They will be exposing people who they consider role models. They will be exposing their own narrators. They will be exposing people who they take their entire religion from. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second Khalifa in terms of the Sunni school of thought, one day he sent out an announcement. He said, anyone who has a hadith of Rasulullah, anyone who's written a hadith, 1 hadith, 5 ahadith, 10 ahadith, bring these ahadith to me. And sent out the announcement. So the people began, whoever's written 1 hadith, someone has 5, someone has whatever. Anyway, they began to bring these ahadith and give them to Umar. And some people got excited, some people got happy. They said, finally, someone is going to combine the ahadith of Rasulullah into one book. We're going to have a source. What does he do? He takes all these ahadith of Rasulullah, burns them. Exactly, Hassan. Sets them alight and burns them. And he says, Hasbuna kitabullah. All we need is the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. Yani Umar cancels the Prophet. He says we don't need the Prophet. We don't need the teachings of the Prophet. We don't need the narrations of the Prophet. It is as if all we needed was the book, the Quran, to come to Umar, and that's it. That's all we need from Islam. And yet we, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, we are the ones who what? We're accused of not following the Sunnah of Rasulullah. We are the ones who are accused of not following the narrations and the traditions of Rasulullah. In Sahih al-Bukhari, which is the most authentic book for the Sunnah, for the Sunni people, the Sunni school of thought, the most authentic book after the Quran is Sahih al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari narrates that the best person after Rasulullah is Abu Bakr, and after Abu Bakr is Umar, and after Umar is Uthman, and then all the companions are equal. In another narration he states that in terms of the Khilafah, he says, after Rasulullah we had Abu Bakr for 2 years and 2 months. And then we had Umar for 10 years and 6 months. And then Uthman for 12 years. And then for 5 years we had a fitna. And then we had Muawiyah for 20 years. And then we had Yazid for 3 years and 6 months. He doesn't even want to mention the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He calls it a fitna for 5 years. So look at how distorted history, look at how distorted narrations we have received today. This is what we are fighting against: misinformation, ignorance, misguidance. So when we stress the importance of Ashura and commemorating and remembering, this is the reason. Because today you'll have people come out and say the story of Ashura, the story of Abu Abdullah was very simple. It was simply a fitna between the Muslims, and it ended. In fact, you'll have people that say, no, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was wrong. He stood up against the Khalifa of his time. He was warned by the people, by his family, not to go out, and he made a mistake and he went out. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, who Rasulullah salawatullahi alayhi wa alihi says, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Ahabba Allahu man ahabba Husayna. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. May Allah be pleased with the one who loves Hussein. And there was a special relationship between Rasulullah and between Imam Hussein. And it wasn't just a grandfather-grandson relationship, because we all know and we've all seen that the grandson to the grandfather, it's a very close bond. It's a very unique relationship. It was a lot more than that, because when Imam Hussein was born, Jibreel came down to Rasulullah and he told him, your grandson, this grandson, everyone was happy with this new birth. He told him, your grandson will be martyred. Your grandson will be slaughtered in Karbala. And Rasulullah was the first person to cry for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. The first person to shed a tear for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Yet you have people nowadays,
even crying is considered a bid'ah.
you know, they've gone to extreme lengths. And I don't want to get off topic, I don't want to get sidetracked. But it's actually funny in a sense. Reading Quran on the grave is a bid'ah. Saying Sadaqallah al-Azim is a bid'ah. This is a bid'ah, that is a bid'ah. Crying for Hussein is a bid'ah. Yet, going and eating meat from a foreign country just because it's Christian or Jew or whatever, Kitabi country, yes, you can eat their meat. That's not a bid'ah. Shedding a tear for Abu Abdullah is a bid'ah. Anyway, so basically, that sacrifice of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the tragedy of Karbala, was a divine mission. Was something that Allah Azza wa Jal decreed and decided that it will happen from when Imam Hussein was born. In fact, even before Imam Hussein was born, it was decreed that the religion of Islam, that the Quran will come down on Muhammad, and the religion of Islam will be revived by Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and the sacrifice of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Let's have a hypothetical situation, a hypothetical scenario. How old was Abu Abdullah al-Hussein when he died in Karbala? He was 54 years old. Let's say he didn't go to Karbala. He didn't die. He wasn't martyred. How old would he be? How long would he have lived? His grandfather Rasulullah died at the age of 61. So he would have lived another 6 or 7 years, maybe in peace with his family around him, with his children, with his companions in Medina. And if Imam Hussein did not go out to Karbala, in that hypothetical situation, where would we be today? Where would the religion of Islam be today? Would we have even a shred of the religion left? Shaykh al-Saduq narrates that before Abu Abdullah al-Hussein headed towards Karbala, he went to visit the grave of his grandfather Rasulullah. And he went down on the grave of Rasulullah, he put his head on the grave, he closed his eyes, and then he saw Rasulullah come to him. Welcome him with open arms, hugs him, and says to him, "O grandson, your father Ali ibn Abi Talib and your mother Fatima al-Zahra and your brother Hassan are all waiting for you. They all miss you. They all want to see you." He says to him, "O grandfather, I miss them too. I want to see them. I want to stay with you. I don't want to go back to the dunya." What does Rasulullah say to him? He says, "إِنَّ لَكَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ دَرَجَاتٍ لَا تَنَالَهَا إِلَّا بِالشَّهَادَةِ." He says, you have levels in heaven that you will not reach, that you will not gain except with shahada. That's something that's decided. It's a divine will of Allah Azza wa Jal that you will be martyred. So Ashura is not just a concept of sadness and commemorating for a specific, that's limited to a specific community or for certain people or a certain country or a land. It's a universal concept of human dignity, concept of justice, of respect, of peace. And those people who do not know Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, those people who do not know about Abdullah al-Hussein, then they do not have the true religion. They have the physical aspects. They may have the physical aspects. They may pray, they may fast, they may go to Hajj, they may pay zakat, but they've lost on the true essence and the core meaning of Islam. They have a corrupted version of Islam. Those who do not know Ahlul Bayt, they do not know the Quran. Because what does Rasulullah say about the Quran? What does Rasulullah say to Ali ibn Abi Talib? He says, أنت الكتاب الناطق. He says, you are the embodiment of the Quran. You are the practical version of the Quran. You are the one who practiced it. And one of the most important lessons which we learn from Ashura is the importance of responsibility. That we each and every one of us needs to feel a sense of responsibility. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Mu'minun, He says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تَرْجِعُونَ. He says, do you think that we have created you in vain and that you will not be returned to us? You are not just another number. Don't think that you are an insignificant person on this life. Don't think that you do not have enough power, you do not have enough wealth to do anything in this earth. Every one of us is responsible. وَقَفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. One of the most important verses that stresses the responsibility that we have. Rasulullah salawatullahi alayhi wa alihi says in this hadith, which I will conclude with tonight. He says, لا تزول قدما العبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع عن عمره فيما أفناه. He says, on the day of judgment, a believer will not pass until he's asked about four things. عن عمره فيما أفناه. The first thing you're asked about is your life. What have you wasted it on? What's the most precious thing that you have? If someone came to you today and told you, I'll give you $2 million, and I'll give you all these properties and all these cars and all these possessions, but you have to give up your life tomorrow. Would you give your life up? No, because your most precious thing is your life. Fima afnah, what did you waste this life on? Did you use this life to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal? Did you use the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed you with and gave you to learn about your religion, to help others? وَعَنْ شَبَابِهِ فِيمَا أَبْلَاهِ. And on your youth, what did you waste it on? What's so special about being young, about being youth? When you're young, you have more energy, you have more time, you have less responsibilities, you're stronger physically. What did you use all of these things for in your youth? What did you waste them on? And the problem today that we have is a lot of our youth think that because we're young, we have a lot of time in front of us, we can waste these years, these prime years of our youth on useless things. Did you use this youth to help your parents? You're still living with your parents, you're still young. You still have all this energy. Did you help your parents? Did you help those who are in need? Did you use the extra time that you have before you are in a career and you're busy and you have a family? Did you use this extra time to learn about your religion? Tafaqquh fi ad-din. Did you study something about your religion? وَعَنْ مَالِهِ مِنْ أَيْنَ اكْتَسَبَهُ وَفِيمَا أَنْفَقَهُ. The third question you're asked is about your wealth, about your money. Where did you get it from and where did you spend it? You're constantly chasing more wealth. This business idea, that business idea, let me invest in this. Let me put my money here, let me put my money there. But did you ask yourself, is this halal? Is this haram money? Do you know the impact of haram money that it can have on yourself, your family, on your children? Where did you get this money from? And then you got the money, where did you spend it? Did you give sadaqah? Did you help the needy? Did you help the poor? Did you give charity? Did you spend this money for the majalis of Abu Abdullah, for the remembrance of Abu Abdullah? And the final thing is وَعَنْ عِلْمِهِ مَاذَا عَمَلَ فِيهِ. And the knowledge. If you have the knowledge, where did you use it? Or if you used it or not. You know, the worst type of knowledge is knowledge that stops at the tongue. Either you just speak it or you don't even speak it. If you are given knowledge, if you have the knowledge, did you spread that knowledge? Did you help others? Did you sit your younger brother? Did you sit your friends down? Did you sit your cousins, your community? And give them some of that knowledge to help them. Insha'Allah, tonight, as an introduction to why we remember Ashura, the importance of remembering Ashura, and some key points. And over the next nights, over the next 12 or 13 nights, insha'Allah, we'll be delving into specific topics that relate to the youth that are living in the West, that are living in these times, these dangerous times, the ever-changing times. Insha'Allah, we'll have the tawfiq and the blessings to focus on these issues in the coming nights. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ورحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة على أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات أموات شيعة أمير المؤمنين من ليس لهم ذاكر تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد